Most of Burnaby remained undeveloped until the 1890s. It was a heavily forested area home to lakes and waterways and rolling hills that lay between the bustling riverfront city of New Westminster and the infant town of Vancouver. Long before the 1890s, because of the importance of linking the Fraser River to English Bay and Burrard Inlet, the Royal Engineers from England created major roads in and through the area. The early survey groups were led by Robert Burnaby, private secretary to Colonel Richard Clement Moody, commanding officer of the Columbia Detachment of the Royal Engineers. These sappers, as they were called, built the first roads in the Virgin Territory that would become known in time as Burnaby. Logging was the first industry in the area. There was a great demand for lumber to build houses and shops for early settlers. The area was rich in cedar, fir, and hemlock trees, some of which were 10 feet in diameter. Quite a challenge when faced with only axes and 8-foot crosscut saws as tools. In October of 1891, a 12-mile tram line began operation. Dubbed the Colonizer, the line brought an influx of settlers into what is now South Burnaby, where cluster communities sprouted and grew near the stations. Touted as one of the earliest electric interurban tram systems in Canada, it revolutionized freight and passenger transportation between the ports of Vancouver and New Westminster and became a major contributor to development in Burnaby. The tram line connecting the cities attracted settlers to a number of areas in Burnaby. By 1892, a few hundred people had established homes in the Edmonds district, as well as the south side of Burnaby Lake and the eastern end of Deer Lake. The latter area would become the future home of Burnaby Village Museum, opened on November 19, 1971, to commemorate the centennial of British Columbia joining the Confederation of Canada. The museum portrays early life in Burnaby and is a source of community pride. Over the years, it has earned several awards for its outstanding interpretation of early life in Burnaby. Nestled in 10 acres around Deer Lake, the Burnaby Village Museum and Carousel provides visitors an opportunity to step back in time and experience what life was like in Burnaby in the early 1920s. Visitors can walk through the streets of the village where costumed townspeople welcome you into more than 30 picturesque shops and homes. Step into the print shop, where you can receive a first-hand look at typesetting and printing presses that help revolutionize communication. Or visit the blacksmith, where you'll see iron hammered and shaped into the needs of the day, including wagon wheels, horseshoes, and even auto parts. Chat with the Chinese herbalist and find out what he would have recommended to cure the common cold through traditional Chinese herbal medicines and tonics. Demonstrations, exhibits and displays, entertainment and public participation bring the history of Burnaby to life.
The museum represents in effect, a tram stop community, but it's a composite one. We didn't pick a specific one and recreate it. We've taken elements from all over Burnaby. So we have elements here from North Burnaby and South Burnaby, different areas. There's a mixture of original buildings and replica buildings. One house that was on the site, replica buildings that were built at the beginning, and historical buildings that, as they were threatened with Burnaby's expansion, and they were brought here to save them.
Every year, more than 150,000 visitors step back in time. They come from as far away as Europe and the Far East, and from as close as a 5-minute walk. With its comfortable and relaxed atmosphere, visitors can explore the museum with its village and carousel at their own pace, or just sit down, socialize, soak up the sun, and enjoy a midsummer picnic. As a center of entertainment and education, the museum can be enjoyed by visitors of all ages. For seniors, it's an opportunity to reminisce and reflect on days gone by. For young people, it's a chance to experience what life was like before computers and video games.
First and foremost, we are an educational institution, so we do hope that they go back with an understanding and factual information about what life was back in the period we represent. We also want them to have a good time. We all know that you learn more easily by having fun. And that's one of the things that we try to do as well. We want them to go home and say, boy, that was a great time. And we want them to tell their friends and family, let's go back.
A fun, relaxed atmosphere where you can travel back in time through the village at your own pace, providing an opportunity to socialize and enjoy the experience with family and friends. Interpreters create an atmosphere of stepping on board a time machine and into a bygone era. Visitors can interact with them, seeing the results of their work, and ask questions.
I teach here during the school year, and the majority of the children will ask, "Were you the teacher here in 1925? You have no idea how that would make me feel. Number one, we get to do the arithmetic on this one, but also it shows me that I am being authentic, and I am portraying the way things would have been done in that era.
So what drives you to be interested in this?
Oh, it's got to be the public. I mean, whenever you see them understanding and learning and just being a part of what you're trying to share as information, when they get great joy and entertainment out of it, you know, it just makes the job worthwhile.
I think what brings me back is the enjoyment of sharing historical information with other people. The excitement I see in children's eyes when they actually realize that there was previous generations who lived in a little different way and did things a little differently.
The interaction with the public here, and also for me, the machines are interesting, but in how they affected people's work. That's my interest, is what people did daily lives in the 1920s and before, and conveying that to the people that come in, and they really hopefully get a sense of how people lived and how things have changed, and the continuity as well. It's really what makes it special for me.
The Burnaby Village Museum is nestled in the heart of arts and heritage in Burnaby's Deer Lake Park. This unique natural oasis is centrally located in the Lower Mainland and offers an escape into the natural beauty of the area. The rolling hills and marshlands around Deer Lake are home to Burnaby's arts and heritage complexes. You can take in an art exhibit at the beautifully restored gallery at Seckerley House, then stroll through Century Gardens, home to the city's annual Rhododendron Festival. A short walk away is the architecturally stunning Shadbolt Centre for the Arts, home to music, dance, theatre, visual and literary arts programs, as well as the James Cowan Theatre, a studio theatre, and a recital hall. Also nestled in Deer Lake Park is the popular Hart House restaurant, which dates back to 1910, when it was a family home. Pleasant walking trails crisscross the woodlands, marshes, and rolling fields. Nearby are playgrounds, picnic tables, and boat rentals, only steps away from Burnaby Village Museum.
You know, this is Burnaby's best kept secret. Here, this beautiful lake with the park that surrounds it in a protected area that has a variety of futures. I think the Deer Lake Park Management Plan really spelled that out recently when Council and Commission adopted the plan that preserves the environment, enhances recreation, allows for some cultural development as well. So there is separately mentioned one of our largest restored heritage homes on the hill, which houses Visual Arts Burnaby, our gallery services, its various outbuildings. There's the Shadbolt Centre for the Arts, which has theatres in it and performing and presentation spaces and places to learn in all the arts disciplines. There's a museum, there's the beach, there's the trails, there's a restaurant called Hart House. It's a fabulous
So there's an awful lot going on in one little place.
Absolutely.
As you cross the rustic wooden bridge near the entrance to the museum, you step back in time to the early 1900s, where the village comes to life with lively shops, costumed interpreters, and replica displays full of products and keepsakes from that era. It's a fascinating way to get in touch with the past and to discover the joys and challenges of life in such a village.
The greatest prize when you work towards making the public happy is to seeing their reaction. It is wonderful to see, for example, the tourists from Russia come in and just be amazed at what we have to show them in the blacksmith, for example, or the kids in the schoolhouse who, for the first time in a long time, are seeing a hopscotch game as it should be, if you will. So the people's reactions are bread and butter, if you will.
During the Roaring '20s, rural life changed dramatically as modern technologies of the industrial age influenced travel, work, and pleasure. Within the community, there would have been a variety of townsfolk who would each provide a service. The small community of the day would have been complete with everything from a movie theater to an auto shop and a blacksmith.
The blacksmith here, Mr. Wagner, who worked here in Burnaby, would make things like horseshoes and chains and fences and stuff like that to the general public here in Burnaby. But as factories came by, automation took over, and things like nails and chains and fences and things were made by them instead.
Through the museum's interpreters, visitors can interact with important workers of the day, such as the blacksmith, who explains the tools of the trade. At Wagner's blacksmith shop, the heavy anvil, the blower, and the forge are illuminated by the red glow of the coal-burning fire. Sounds of the era bring the shop to life. The clang of the hammer and the sizzle of the water as red-hot metal is cooled. Visitors ask questions as the interpreter explains the job of a blacksmith.
If you understand what a volunteer or a staff person goes through as an interpreter, they're given some training. They're given some research information. But, you know, a huge part of what they do is up to their own creative imagination. And when they start living the part, it makes for a living museum. And when they interact with the public and respond and gain experience by dealing with all kinds of different people who come here from all over the place, it really adds for a richer way in which they can interpret.
The village is also home to a print shop, where visitors can consider the challenge of setting type in reverse by hand. They can chat with the printer about that revolutionary new machine, the linotype. The print shop is also home to the Burnaby Post newspaper, bringing news of the day to local residents. The interpreters not only have to know the history of the era, but also have to be able to operate the equipment involved in their demonstration. Equipment which can be complicated to operate.
This is a fascinating place to work, and this exhibit in particular holds a lot of interest. I mean, printing was always a fascinating, very important trade or profession. It walked that borderline. Printers were very proud of their work as sort of guardians of literacy and informers of the world.
Established around an era of optimism, business was booming in the early 20s, and it was an opportunity for shopkeepers to specialize, which in turn led to the creation of professions which others in the community depended upon. No longer was it common for everyone to do all their own baking, cleaning, and craft work. One person that many of the townsfolk depended on was the teacher. The Seaforth School was home to students from 7 grades, who all had to learn the 3 R's, reading, writing, and arithmetic. Courtesy was a must. The schoolhouse interpreter provides visitors with a sense of just how strict the classroom was back in the early 1900s. Sit up straight, hands flat on the desk. Are those fingernails clean? No talking.
It's very important to be historically accurate. And because the school was built in 1922, and being a one-room schoolhouse, we also have a list of all the names of the students who actually attended here. When they were interviewed, as well as a lot of our other research, we found the schoolhouse would have been set up this way. It's very, very important to us to show the people the accuracy.
The museum provides visitors with an opportunity to learn in a fun and interactive way as they receive a first-hand experience of life in the 20s. They can touch, smell, hear, and see things in a way that a textbook cannot convey.
Straight lines, please.
There's 5 school programs that are offered from kindergarten to grade 7 or 8. Everything from one program which takes place completely in our schoolhouse, which is the most popular. It's called the 3 R's, where they go through the basics of reading, writing, and arithmetic, saying God Save the King, and get their fingernails inspected. All the way to 2 programs, one which zeroes in on the businesses and the evolution of technology and its impact on village life. and another which is similar but zeroes in on the homes in the village, where the children are encouraged to experience what a child's chores would have been like at that period. Most of them are quite stunned.
To look at the beautiful 1912 C.W. Parker Carousel today, it is hard to believe that it was once slated to be broken up and sold at auction. Fortunately, a concerned group of Burnaby citizens banded together to form Friends of the Carousel. In 1993, after years of fundraising and rebuilding and thousands of volunteer hours spent sanding, carving, and painting all of the parts, the C.W. Parker Carousel number 119 was back in action. Today, thousands of visitors experience the thrill of an exciting spin on the carousel, guaranteed to bring a smile to any face.
I come down here reasonably often and talk to people, and you see older people riding around, and they're going down memory lane because they can think of the times that they rode it at the P&E. And the younger children now, they're developing their memories. Many of them have never seen a carousel before. On the original 4,000 to 6,000, which were available working carousels in North America, in the height of the carousel mania, 1890, 1925, there's less than about 150 now working carousels in North America. And of those, about 10 to 13 in Canada, mainly Eastern Canada. So this one is a jewel of the Lower Mainland.
Hundreds of volunteers spent thousands of hours sanding, carving, and painting the wooden parts, and all of the mechanical parts, including gears and motor, were restored. Now young and old can enjoy the magical experience of whirling flight that millions have enjoyed since Carousel number 119 first came into use back in 1912. Many seniors visiting the carousel will remember back to the 30s and 40s, when the carousel was a major attraction at Happyland in Hastings Park in Vancouver. Spin on the carousel is a perfect way to step back in time.
It's a satisfaction that we have preserved history and people are enjoying it, and there's a great satisfaction of seeing the younger people. School children come through here, 500 or 600 a day during the Heritage Christmas, and older people.
A major objective of Burnaby Village Museum is to collect, preserve, research, document, and interpret artifacts and historical buildings from Burnaby's past. It is, first and foremost, a museum, and what visitors don't see is the huge collection of materials that have been cataloged, filed, and carefully preserved over the years, but are not yet on display.
Yes, there's a lot of that behind-the-scenes work. For example, we have a warehouse full, plus the whole basement of the administration building is storage of the collection. So we're storing Burnaby's art collection, we're storing Burnaby's historical collection, and Burnaby's archives. They're all stored here. So that, of course, requires staff to maintain, take care of it, environmental controls, shelving systems to store it, that kind of thing. So there's a lot behind the scenes.
Authenticity of the various displays is of utmost importance, which is why so much research is done on the products and merchandise that are displayed in the buildings.
We collect in order to furnish the village. That's no mean feat. You have to assemble multiples of many things. For example, you have a number of shops, stores. You need a cash register for every one. So we wind up collecting perhaps 24 cash registers in the collection, most of which we use. The same is true of furniture for houses in the village and merchandise for the stores. So we collect all of the items you'd expect to find in the village from the mid-1920s. In addition to that, our mandate empowers us to collect for all of Burnaby for all of time. So essentially from the beginning of time, as we can see it, to last week, if it's appropriate.
As items are collected from Burnaby's past, not all items are from the 1890s to the 1920s, the era that the museum represents. Because of this, the Stride Gallery was recreated to allow for temporary exhibitions of the museum's vast collection of materials from other eras. materials that would otherwise not be seen by visitors.
You know, the Burnaby Village Museum started out as a period museum representing the area from around 1890 to 1925. Now, choosing a period like that helps us focus on the artifacts, the displays, the costumes, and the story that we're going to tell. But, you know, curiously, that only allows us to exploit at any one point in time maybe 15% of our collection. It would be wonderful to have new opportunities to show more of Burnaby's stories that came before and after. And I think that has to be part of our future when we look at a new policy for our institution. How can we retain the core of the Village Museum and still find ways to tell stories outside of that historic period?
Throughout the museum, visitors can feel what life was like in turn of the 20th century Canada through the objects and products of the day. Authentic products like Kellogg's cereal, Nabob coffee, or the medicines of the day used in the pharmacy, or the tools of the trade used by the barber. Everything within the museum is true to life for that earlier time, but sometimes includes the use of replicas.
We make fairly liberal use of replicas. That fits into the concern about preservation versus access. In some cases, it's not safe to put an original item out on display in questionable environmental conditions, for example, or close to where the public can reach them. So we use replicas. There's also the problem, of course, we are recreating 1920s shops, and we may get one tin of a particular product donated, but a shop, as you know, will have dozens, perhaps hundreds of a particular item. So that's where replication comes in. It is necessary and helps create that effect for the visitors.
The Charleston, the Lindy Hop, Victrola's in the music shop, the Sheik of Araby, the Old Mill Stream, HMS Pinafore, Tin Pan Alley music scores, and ukuleles hanging from a beam.
The draft horse paws the hardwood floor. His ears are twitched back toward the man with the square and calloused hands. The forge glows cherry red to light the blacksmith's shack. His muscled arms are strong as iron bands.
The conductor's dressed in black as we rattle down the track, past stumps and farms of early Burnaby.
Blue lights arc and flicker, ozone smells and squeaking wicker. The conductor calls out, "Next stop, Jubilee!"
Learn the 3 R's was the rule at the village one-room school, and commit immortal poems to memory.
One teacher for all grades, a freckled girl with braids, inkwells, smells of chalk, a spelling bee. The 1920s barber shops had shaving mugs and razor strops, and talks of crops and sports and motor cars. And what boy could forget the risque Police Gazette, and smells of brilliantine and stale cigars. You should never miss a chance where the painted ponies prance to ride that Parker gilded carousel.
For we have always found, as we circle round and round, that the old ride somehow casts a magic spell.
The 1920s decade was unique, in many ways too subtle to be captured in a book.
So if you'd like to go there, to relive those bygone days, then just stroll across the bridge at Deer Lake Brook.
Throughout the year, the Burnaby Village Museum is alive with activity, as annual events provide the perfect time to celebrate traditions. The museum is a gathering place for the community, highlighted during special occasions such as Easter weekend, Mother's Day, Queen Victoria's birthday, Dominion Day, Labor Day weekend, September's Fall Fair, and Heritage Christmas.
Well, for the special events, usually it's from our opening, which is usually early May, all the way then to end of September, and then again at Christmas time. There are special weekends where we host community groups on site, or we will actually bring in entertainers or special events, historically correct, some less so, where we try to bring people to the past, to the period we represent.
Opening day is soon followed by the festivities of Easter weekend. as spring arrives and flowers are in bloom. It's the perfect time to create that colorful Easter bonnet and have a parade. Easter weekend would not be complete without the Easter Bunny and other furry friends. There are also street entertainers, so be prepared to be part of the show. Easter weekend is a wonderful opportunity to get outside and shake off those winter blues. Canada Day, historically known as Dominion Day, is the highlight of the year at the museum, as more than 8,000 visitors arrive to pay tribute as a community to Canada. Politicians are on hand, the band strikes up a tune, and the maple leaf is proudly on display. Soon it's time to share in the Dominion Day birthday cakes, as the Union Jack and the maple leaf are shared amongst all the visitors.
That is our busiest day. It is the only day in the year where we do not charge admission, and where all the politicians are present and have a ball. We have an average of 8,000 people who are here that day.
As summer draws to an end, Labor Day weekend and the museum's fall fair provide one last opportunity to bask in the sun and enjoy the atmosphere of the village as entertainers put on a show, interpreters bring smiles to faces, and families enjoy a late summer picnic. At the fall fair, it's just like the old days. Baking contests bring out some terrific treats. The kids enjoy a scarecrow building contest, and a collection of antique cars is on hand for all to admire. In late November, the museum springs back to life as Heritage Christmas celebrates the holiday season in its own special way. Father Christmas himself shares with youngsters of all ages the true meaning of Christmas. And the Love Farmhouse highlights the scene of a Christmas morning from over 75 years ago. The room is colorfully decorated in the fashion of the day. At night, the village sparkles with hundreds of twinkling colored lights. Many buildings are beautifully decorated for the festive season. Christmas carolers, the scent of wood smoke, and the illuminated manger in the church create a magical experience.
We end the year and we go right into the first week of January usually, and it's called the Heritage Christmas, which speaks for itself in that the public goes from exhibit to exhibit, and each house, each business will have the touches of Christmas that it would have been obvious in a village similar to ours in the 1920s. We also have entertainers, choirs, the school choirs come in, and generally a Christmas flair to the entire site.
As you step across the rustic wooden bridge of the Burnaby Village Museum, you step back into a bygone era, to a time when life was simple yet exciting, when a sense of community was highlighted throughout the year, and when a smile on a face was an everyday occurrence.
Why is it important for this kind of material to be available to the public?
You know, I notice it more acutely on days like Canada Day. And earlier in the afternoon, I was noticing a lot of new Canadians who are pausing to get their photograph taken with members of the RCMP. And it brings to mind what many Canadians who have been born and raised here, maybe for many generations, maybe take for granted. And that our civic pride, our sense of place, our cultural identity is so often wrapped up in the artifacts, the buildings that have disappeared, the stories that people tell, the missions and lives that they have led. And I think the Village Museum gives us an opportunity to see that brought to life and remind us, whether we are elderly folks or youngsters, that we do have a past that's worth noting and preserving and valuing. This is all about taking those stories seriously and making them a part of our daily lives.
Visitors take away memories from the Burnaby Village Museum. Memories that they have seen carefully preserved and cherished by the museum. And new memories that they create with their family and friends as they step back in time.